Hey guys, welcome back. So this is a slight continuation off of last week's video where I said I was going to show you like everything that's growing right now that's kind of exciting to me, but since then more stuff has grown. I've actually been really hard at work this whole for 2 weeks straight, I think. I have been just like deep cleaning my house, getting new furniture, putting it together, moving things out, donating things. I've just been in like hardcore spring cleaning mode. And so like originally I wanted to do a repot video, but then I really don't have it in me. And I just cleaned it. I've also made a bunch of changes to this room. I've just changed this entire side of this room that you never see. It has my makeup desk, but I installed a shelf that now houses all my substrates, which is like the best. Like it's just operation contain all the plant stuff in one room. I am like 90% there. I will probably just insert some footage of this shelf. It is like perfect. It's from Amazon and it's this perfect width and height between the shelves to house the IKEA bins. So either the short ones, 2 stacked high, or like the slightly taller ones, 2 of them side by side. And all my pots and my propagation cups and stuff for selling all live in the same place. I'm in love. I'm in love. I don't want to make a mess. I don't want to do repot. I just want to show you some updates. I mainly have just like plants to show you with new leaves and stuff to update you on plants I've showed in the past. And I wanted to show you that shelf because oh, I love it. I will link that shelf in the description. I was searching for the right shelf for so long. I thought of putting another wire shelf there just because you can like adjust the height between the shelves really easily. But then I just wanted something a little bit daintier, if that makes sense. And I just like that shelf is so perfect. And this width of the room is so much wider because I got rid of my makeup desk. Well, I didn't get rid of it. I moved this massive desk. It now lives in my editing room. So that's what I'm editing on now. It's a way bigger desk, so much more space. And then I got a much smaller desk for my vanity and it's like great. And I also pulled out a lot of plants from my tent and I cleaned the floor liner. So a few videos ago, I did a haul from Palm Street. So I ordered stuff off the Palm Street app. I got it delivered to just across the border. We picked it up and I just want to show you some of the plants because the first leaves have come in and they're very, very, very cute. So I'd gotten 3 red crystallinums from Woohoo Tropicals. I wasn't going to bank on getting 3 specimens that are all like really highly colored, very beautiful ones. So I was just trying to increase my odds. In case anybody doesn't know, the red, like the very red veins that come in like super pink or super purple and stay for quite a long time, like past the point of the leaf hardening, that is quite a recessive gene. So within a batch of red crystallinums, don't expect them all to come in really red. Actually, just really quick. These are not the Woohoo plants, but this one is a hybrid. Oh, it's so cute. This one was a cross between Charmaine's plant and Lauren's plant. So the seed parent was Hoffmanni X or Indo Dressleri. This plant is just like this unknown hybrid, what Indonesia was selling as Dressleri for quite a few months, and now they're just selling as usually Dressleri, Indo type. And then the pollen parent was Lauren's red crystallinum from Tazula. So of this batch, a lot of them look like crystallinum. They're very silvery. Look how cute this is. This one really took on the crystallinum genes. But then the leaves aren't that red. It's like slightly red, like it's orangey, peachy kind of colored. But by the time it's like nearly fully expanded, it's gonna be full green. But I luckily really, really love crystallinums. Like I think you guys know how much I love crystallinums. And this leaf with the really bold veins that really sparkle. I don't know if I can catch the sparkle. Maybe I can't. It's like very glittery. You can also see it on the midrib of the newer leaf. What was I saying? I forget what I was saying. I totally lost my train of thought. But I really like this plant and it's been growing really well for me. It used to be living in my tent and now it used to be living in my dome and now it lives in my exo. So I don't know what the general like percentage is that you can expect of red. Let's say you cross 2 red crystal together. I don't really know what percentage you can expect to have quite red offspring. For example, if you cross 2 ace of spades dark form together, you're not going to get like an ace of spades dark form babies like across the board. I think Tazula says something about like 5% of the offspring are showing characteristics that look just like the original dark form Ace of Spades. The rest of them don't look quite the same. They look like some sort of papillonaminum hybrid. Anyways, 2 out of the 3 red crystals have come in with new leaves, and here's the first one. It looks pretty promising. So this one was Woo 5 Self, and this was the biggest one of the 3. So that was the biggest leaf when I first got it. The newest leaf have just come in, and the veins look very pink. I mean, in person, they look really pink. On the viewfinder, it looks kind of gray. If I come any closer, I don't think it's gonna focus. There we go. It's pretty pink. So only time will tell to see like how long that pink stays on the veins. As the leaf grows and hardens, oh, the color is getting really weird now. And as the plant matures, it should get more vibrant. But it's pretty promising that at this age, it's showing pink. And then the second one, this one is Woo 5 crossed with Woo 8, is way more pink. So where the silver would be, you can see it's like super pink. And then the red, the leaf does not look that red on the viewfinder, but in person, like the leaf looks like this like dusty pink, dusty brownie pink, but then the veins are like hot pink with glitter. But I don't know if it's showing up quite the same. I don't think it will. Oh man, I was really excited to show this leaf because it's so pink in person. But this one I think is actually going to be more pink than the Woo 5 Self. Just side by side. Yeah, now you can see that this one is more pink than this one, but this one does show pink. This one is the unknown red crystallinum. Like they forgot which one it was, Selfed. And it just put out a leaf, so it's really hard to tell from this what it'll be like. These have been growing awesome. Like they only just got moved into this tent yesterday. They were living here before. They've been out in ambient conditions. They've been rooting. You can see some roots here on this one. Let's see. Ooh, this one has a nice juicy root. They're all in tree-fern soil. They got a little bit of leca at the bottom. Yeah, they've just been trucking along. Super, super easy. Does this one have roots yet? Not that I can see just yet, but they're pushing out leaves, so they must be happy. This one, the Ace of Spades crossed with Eastern Dresseri, this one has pushed out a leaf. Nothing much to see just yet. Has it rooted yet? Yeah, I can see a tiny little fuzzy root right here. Anyways, I just want to show you updates on those because they're very cute, and I also just wanted to because I see how popular red crystals are, and I just want to make sure that anyone who's just like getting into anthuriums or getting into buying like maybe more pricey anthuriums, not just to go by the name, like 2 red crystallinums crossed together might not make a red crystallinum, if that makes sense. So go by how the plant looks, not by what the name is. If it's a seedling, if it's a cutting off of a very nicely colored mother plant, then you're good to go. But if it's a seedling, like don't pay like a premium price if you can't tell that it's going to be a nicely colored one. Okay, this batch of seed I want to show you for 2 reasons. Okay, this one is an unknown, it's, okay, this plant, this forgetii, I don't know what to call it. Forgetii silver. It's very, very dark and it has really nice veins. This one got a little bit like munched and it has like a little bit of spider mite damage, but I love this one so much. I just chopped all the leaves off when I was spider mite treating. I was just like, let's just get rid of extra leaves that, why did I throw that on the floor? So I chopped all the leaves off because I was just like trying to have less leaves to maintain, less leaves to treat. And I kept this one on because it was new and it was so beautiful. Like, I don't know if you can see it on camera. If maybe like from here, it's got that like grainy, pebbly, kind of like elephant skin texture. This is one of my favorite forgetii that I own. I got it from Tropicals like so many years ago. And I recently just put a little collar on it to pot extend it. I was gonna try to use a Russo one, but that one was the Russo pot extender, it's too big for this pot. I think they're gonna make smaller ones, I think. Don't quote me on that. But I made a smaller one just out of like plastic and I just like hooked it together because this is not super root bound. As you can see, it's like not super filled the pot, but it was like so stemmy above the substrate. Anyway, so this one last fall, something like that. Just produced berries out of nowhere. I didn't pollinate it. It just like, I was like, that inflow looks pregnant. I didn't pollinate it. It just started producing berries one day. I don't know if it was an open pollination or if it was a self. No clue. No clue at all. I have a feeling it was a self, and that's based on nothing. I just have a feeling because in its vicinity there were other forgetii that were flowering. There's also like plants slightly across the room, like over here, that was flowering. But I just deep down feel like it's a self, kind of based on its babies. And they're also too young to know for sure. That's just a feeling I have. These are the babies. So they were germinated in a dome like this. And then I separated out the biggest ones and then I potted them up. I've sold like a handful, like maybe 4 of them as little tiny seedlings. These ones have been living out in ambient conditions and they're like this. I wanted to show you this because these ones that were left in here were like what were much smaller, not definitely runts, because they were potted in a communal thing. So every cell, I believe I had 3 seeds in each. The majority of them germinated and some of them didn't. So the ones that were left behind when I potted these up were the ones that were like way smaller, but I wanted to give them a chance and I gave them each their own cell. So in each of these now is just one single plant, and now they're way bigger and way faster and way more robust than when they were living in a communal cell. And then I just wanted to touch on that because like sometimes when you have seeds germinated all in one container, you'll have ones that are way smaller than the others, and you'll have these really big ones that obviously stand out and then they look the most robust. But then once you separate them, you can get those like small, tiny stragglers going. So they're not definitely runts. It might just be that they're in a communal pot and they're competing with each other for resources and nutrients. So before ruling it out as a runt, get them potted individually, and then at that point, see who's like straggling and who's not. So of this, I wouldn't classify any of these as runts because like this is the absolute smallest one in this whole batch. But you can see that it's sizing up. What I personally would consider a runt is one that just like struggles and struggles, never really sizes up, can't hold on to leaves, and is just like a really, really weak plant compared to everything else. Of course, there's going to be a one in a batch that's like the smallest. There's always a runt, I guess, technically, but if it's continuously growing, it can hold on to leaves and it's sizing up. Even though it's small, it's not definitely a runt. So this one's actually really encouraging because I was like, oh, maybe these aren't going to turn into anything, but now potted individually and they're all sharing the same kind of nutrient. I don't know if you can see. They're getting water at the same time. They have the same nutrients in there. They're getting the same light. They're all in the same humidity dome. They're sizing up pretty much to the same size as the original ones that I had removed for being much bigger. And then of these ones, they're not so cute looking because they're seedlings and I've got them out in ambient conditions. They're not growing quite as well as like something that would be living in a tent or living in a dome. Like we got a lot of this kind of stuff going on. But I wanted to show you this leaf. It's, I mean, it's variegated, but I really, there's a lot of discourse around variegated anthuriums, and like it's really, I feel, split down the middle in terms of people who like it and people who just can't stand the look of it. I don't know where I sit. I think I'm more on the side of like I like it, but I've never, no, that's not true. I have owned one. Well, I owned a variegated Vitarifolium. Before I was wanting to breed anthuriums just for volume, just to up the chance of getting a variegated seedling. But I realized that there's very few variegated anthuriums that I think actually improves the look of the plant. And I'm thinking the one, like I'm thinking right now, actually in my brain, is the Silverchrome Gardens variegated Ace of Spades. It has this like really big sectoral variegation that's like super hot pink when the leaves come in. That's beautiful. But this is interesting to see like what that's gonna turn into. Right now it looks like sick. It's really warped. It has like that kind of speckly variegation that looks kind of mottled, but it's also like a very tiny plant. I'm glad that the variegation didn't like overtake the whole leaf. I've also seen completely white seedlings that just they don't grow, they just kind of die off on their own. So at this age, I don't really want a highly variegated plant, but I hope that turns into something cool. Is it gonna drip? No. Okay, there we go. I'll just show it to you on its own. But this variegation has definitely warped the leaf, I think. But it also goes to show that like variegation on a seedling can come in like on the 4th, 5th leaf. You can't really tell based on the first few leaves because on the other leaves, there is 0 signs of variegation. And I've seen that on other variegated plants too that actually look like nice variegation. The first few leaves show nothing and then it just comes out of nowhere. Okay, so I don't know if anyone except for me will care about this. This is my hybrid. This was one hybrid where I was going for volume. I didn't care like who the parents were. I was just like getting ready for work. I saw pollen, I saw receptive, and I just swiped and swiped. So the seed parent is this Indomeg, this large guy here. That's him in the back as well. And then the pollen parent was this guy. This is like the one that I'm keeping for sure. And it's so cute. The babies are quite dark and they're very silvery and like they've all been very cute. And I think I'm just biased and I don't know if like if it wasn't my hybrid I would be like, ooh, that's so cute. But this one, oh my gosh. Okay, so the lighting situation on this one is kind of not optimal. So the leaves are like, they don't know where to face. This is the second newest leaf. It's just put out a new one, but this one was so cute because it has started to fuse its sinus. And do you see how black it is? And how bold the veins are and just how silvery. I'm quite fond of this one. And the newest leaf looks like it has a half fused sinus as well. I've been selling like the odd one here and there on the North Tropical Lives because I'm also growing these in ambient conditions. So they're growing slower. And also like I forget to water them all the time, so they dry out and they crisp up. And so I'm not going to sell something with like 2 leaves and half of them are crisp off. So I've been selling them really, really slowly, and they're not expensive, obviously, because it's just I call it Indomag crossed with a Forgetti Silver. But I do think they are very, very cute. Like the darkness does stay quite well. This one's really dirty. I think it has mica water on it. But this one actually did surprise me for how cute it is. It's kind of hard to tell the root situation, but I do think it's pretty full in there. Not root bound, but getting full. So once this leaf hardens, I'll probably get it moved up into this size pot. So it's just the next size up. And then I'll find a better place for it where it's not going to be so confused as to where to face. Speaking of variegation, this is a seedling I got from my friend Jose for Christmas. So I do know. This one was a seedling from Yolanda Pickle Sauce. If you're on the Anthuriums Addicts groups, I'm sure you know her name. This one is such a long name. Papillamnum Fort Sherman Ralphinum from J. Vanini crossed with Rio Guanche Dressleri Carla. So Fort Sherman Ralphinum crossed with Dress Carla. This one was like on its first sprouted leaf when I got it, and now it's a little bit bigger. It's got such a strange shape and it has the blister variegation. So this is still an expanding leaf, so you won't be able to see it that well until it fully hardens. And this variegation that people compare to something quite rude, that will turn silvery, kind of silvery, but right now it's kind of green. On this leaf, it's not as much. There's a little bit right here and a little bit here in the corner. It's definitely a bit more on this leaf, but overall the leaf shape is so strange. It's so narrow here at the top. There's like no lobes and it kind of widens out in the center, and it's so long and like kind of bumpy in just a very strange way. And I am just very intrigued by this plant. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the blister variegation. The only blister variegation I really like is on Silvery Hoyas, but this I am very curious to see what it turns out like, because the shape of the leaf is so strange. Like even on this older leaf, it's just like a long little spear. So that was quite interesting. I know Charmaine has this as well. I wonder how it's doing. And also Jessie has this. It might not be the exact same hybrid that Jessie has, but something like this. It might just be in my head, but I feel like Dressleri offspring or some of these like RG Dressleris have quite a lot of occurrence of variegated offspring. Did that make any sense? I feel like for those people who are breeding RG Dress, they're getting more variegated offspring than other species. So a few weeks ago, I filmed a vlog. Part of that was I went to Charmaine's house. We did a Palm Street live. I brought some anthuriums there. Mostly, actually all of them were Woohoo Tropicals anthuriums because we were like going live on the platform and then Woohoo was going live right after us. So we wanted to kind of keep it on topic. So me and Charmaine received these Woohoo plants late last year, like end of October-ish. And now they're at the size where we can be chopped. So like we each got 6. So as we chop them, the other person gets the first cutting. So in that video, I chopped my Red Crystal Lux and I chopped my Carla Bivet from them. And both of them are doing great. They both put out new leaves. Maybe I'll just pull that one out to show you because it's actually really cute. But this Carla Bivet, this is what it looked like before I chopped it. So this is the top cutting. Oh, it's getting blown out. Charmaine got the bottom and it's put out a new leaf. It's rooted quite well, but this new leaf is, wow, it's so pretty. This was facing the wall, so I just saw the back of it and I just didn't really want to turn it around until it was like a good size. And when I turned it around, oh my God, that color. And I also wasn't expecting it to be quite so big because it lost a lot of the root system. But you can see how floppy it is. It's like liquid right now. So it still has a good amount of growing to do, but it's so pretty and it's so elongated. I don't know if this is a BVEP trait where the sinus kind of protrudes over time. So once the leaf hardens, it doesn't really show, but in the months following, slowly the sinus will get bigger, lumpier, and it kind of makes this like curve back, like effect to the lobes. Like this one is starting to protrude and it's like pushing the lobes back a little bit. I kind of like it because you get to enjoy the very like flat, pretty leaves and you get to enjoy something like a little bit gnarlier like this. But wow, this leaf, I just turned it around yesterday and I was in awe of this color and the shape, and it's just pristine. And I really hope as I'm putting it back in the tent, I don't ding it. The veins are so thin. They're like hairline veins. And I know the color is not coming off properly, but it's a very pretty, like berry toned, winey color. And I'm just very impressed at like how quickly it rooted after the repot and how nice of a size the next leaf was after it. And I think I probably could chop it again in like 2 leaves or so. And based on my other Carla Bivet, which may not be true for this one, but this one might be flowering soon. Well, it's not on caterpillars yet, but I think as soon as it gets on caterpillars, it's going to be flowering. Okay, let me see if I can get the other plant out without breaking anything. Well, I had to pull this plant out in order to get to the plant behind it, but this is my contaminated Carla, and that leaf has gotten so big. Like, look at it. That berry tone is starting to turn into like a dark green. I was very impressed with how big this offset became. In the live sales, we took a measuring tape and we actually measured how big this is. And for me, it's 7 inches. So this is about 6 inches, 6.5 inches. I love how wide and round this leaf got in comparison to its other leaves that were quite like almond, narrow shaped. But this one really turned round, and I really hope it keeps this up because I love the round leaves because it makes it look even puffier. All right, let me see if I can get to this. Okay, here we go. This is Red Crystal crossed with Luxurians from Woohoo. This one I also chopped in that video. Look at the roots. This thing roots like no tomorrow. Look at it. It's gonna be ready for a repot soon. And in that video, I don't know if you watched it, but I cut off the biggest root system. It was like, the root system was like this big, and it was this giant hornet's nest looking thing with like a tiny little leaf sticking out of it. It was like the funniest thing I've ever seen. I was left with like probably 15-20% of the root system, but it has filled out this pot in no time. This of course is tree fern soil. This was the same substrate that I had used on this plant, so I unpotted it, scooped up the leftovers and just potted it back in. This is the newest leaf. Again, the size, pretty good. It's still quite soft. I love how pink that vein is. It reminds me of a watermelon. It's pretty pink on the back as well. But hold on, before I forget, I'm gonna need to water this. Today we are watering with just TPS1. People always ask me how I water my anthuriums, and I will say I like to water all my plants pretty deeply just because I don't like to water. So I like to see water running out the bottom, and I will just sit it in that water. Because it also has that leca layer at the bottom, so I'm not worried about it getting like muddy. And since this is actually at the back and it takes up water a lot, I'm gonna give it a little bit extra. But yeah, these two bounced back from their chops like nothing even happened. Okay, so recently I got a box of plants from Cartel Down, and I wanted to show you the one that has pushed out like a full-on leaf and is like close to hardening off. And this was actually my favorite from the batch. I don't know if it's gonna be my favorite forever from that whole batch, but right now it's my favorite. So this one is Dark Phoenix crossed with Ralph Lineham Fort Sherman, which they had also sent me last year, but this is obviously a different specimen within probably a different seed batch. I mean, it's almost definitely a different seed batch. I really loved how triangular the leaves were, so I knew it was gonna look different from my original one, and I'll show you that one in a second. But this new leaf is so cute. It just looks like a spear, and like the little tiny skinny ears and the color. I was so delighted to see this. It was living in this acclimation bin thing. The other plants are still in there. They're pushing out their first leaves. They're just emerging. So they're not like, you know, a leaf that I can see yet. So I'm just gonna show you this one today. This one just got moved into my tent yesterday because this one has rooted quite well. There's also a big root down here. This one went into tree fern soil. It has leca at the bottom, same setup as usual, but I'm really excited to see how this one grows out because the other one that I got from the last year is so cute. I don't think I chopped this on camera. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, I did chop it on camera. So I chopped this a while ago. I made 2 cuttings off this plant and I don't even remember when it was. One prop I traded with Jing, and then one turned into 3 plants because it had 3 growth points on it. So I just recently separated them into 3 plants and they're so cute. But then recently it's all coming back to me now. This was not on camera, but I just took it out. I was gonna repot it and it was like so much stem. The internodes are quite long on this one. So I got 2 more cuttings off of it, I think. And then it immediately pushed out a leaf and it's so cute. This newest leaf is still super floppy. I feel like it's so split down the middle between Dark Phoenix and Ralph Lineham Fort Sherman because it has those really pointy ears, but the texture of it is so Dark Phoenixy. This is definitely one of the fastest anthuriums I own. Like it will not stop growing and it keeps producing offsets, so it'll just keep producing little babies for you. So yeah, I moved this from pond to tree fern soil and it has rooted this much in the last couple of weeks. There's some roots back here as well. And then I moved it from its old spot into this new spot, which is like a lot darker just because some of the leaves were getting slightly bleached. Definitely like the parts that were closer to the grow lights. You can also see this leaf is quite bleached. This leaf is a little bit warped, but I really liked it when it came out because it just looks so evil. But this is definitely an upsize and this is like right after a chop. So the one cutting I traded with Jing, I traded for this plant, which also grows non-freaking stop. This is her Anthurium X1 crossed with X1. So this is a plant from Space Hijau on Instagram. The plant was originally from Jose. So I've talked about Jose a whole bunch of times because we bought like his whole collection. Or we didn't buy his whole collection. He sold his whole collection. We bought a lot of his collection when he was selling it. And the thing is, like with Jose's plants, they were all really nice because he has really nice taste, but he also never chops his plants. Like all of his plants were fully intact. There was so much stem, so it was really good. It was a really good deal for a lot of people because he wasn't selling it at way higher prices than what he had bought it at, but it had like so much stem. So you probably could get like 5 plants out of every 1 plant that you bought from him. So this plant Jing bought, and then she just like chopped it up into like four pieces or something like that. And then I got 1 and it has pushed out 4 leaves in my care. I repotted this on camera. It was in like a short little deli cup kind of. It was more or less a temporary pot. And then I moved it into this big pot and I was like, this looks ridiculous because it had neither of these 2 leaves. So ignore these 2 leaves. It just had these 2 leaves down here. And I was like, this looks so silly. But if you trust the boat mode process, it will eventually fill in. And the anthuriums just like seem to like it. I think because they don't like to dry out. So as long as your substrate is amended enough that it has enough airflow through the substrate, it's not super muddy, it's not super dense, it can have moisture for longer, it can stretch its roots. I don't think they like to be root bound, and it got going right away. So this leaf got a little bit damaged as it was emerging from the sheath. The same thing happened a little bit here, but this one is still really floppy, so it has some expanding to do, so it will definitely be bigger than this one. But this thing grows so fast. With every leaf that has come in, it has started to emerge before the next, no, wait. With every leaf that comes in, it will be emerging before the previous leaf has hardened. If you want a plant that grows really fast, maybe X1. And I can't say the same for every single X1. And if you're getting from Indonesia, there's a high chance that you're going to get X1 that's not actually bred from the plant that was originally called X1. They just kind of name whatever that looks slightly like X1. Anyways, if you get one from Space Hijau or like an X1 hybrid, anything crossed with Ralph Linum Fort Sherman will produce pups like no tomorrow based on my experience. Everything that I have that is crossed with Ralph Linum Fort Sherman, my Fort Sherman Ralph Linum, is just like every offset activated and growing. Like you can make it into a big bushy plant or just keep selling pups of it and just make your money back. But this is such a beautiful plant. I've been wanting an X1 for so long. I was so excited to get this one because it's so elongated. This one is actually quite a nice specimen. But the original one that I had fallen in love with had more, I think it was a cartel picture. I'll put it right here, but it had more of an electric orange veins. But this one has like, it has everything else. It has the shape, it has the length, it has the color, minus the veins. But I love growing this just because of how fast it grows and obviously how beautiful it is. So it's very encouraging as an anthurium parent to have something like this. Okay, I know I just showed you this last week, but I want to show you my Carla. This is my Wutu Carla. I want to show you this because this stage is my favorite, when the leaf is kind of still this like winey brown color, but the sinus is still really pink. But to be honest, this one, the pink veins stick around because it's on this leaf. That's the previous leaf, and this is 2 leaves ago. The pink is still on the sinus. So the pink sinus will stick around, but the midrib is only really pink at this stage. So just wanted to immortalize this somehow. Okay, I wasn't planning to show this to you, but I turned around and this just caught my attention again. So I showed this plant in last week's video, but this leaf has expanded way more than I thought it would. This is my Anthurium Minahasa. So I chopped this a few weeks ago. It was in pond, it was in no drainage, and it was getting pretty root bound. So I was like, it's time to just repot it. And since I had moved it out of my tent into my EXO, or actually it was living on this shelf, this open shelf for a little while. And then like I had an empty spot in my EXO and I just wanted to move it there. But I knew I wasn't going to water that. Like I never water that EXO, that EXO because like there's like leaves in the way and stuff. I just find it such a chore to go there. So those plants usually get underwater. So I was like, I'm gonna chop it first. I did cut it and then I moved it to tree fern soil. It has really like the tree fern soil. These roots are all new in the last few weeks. I think I chopped this like right before I filmed the tree fern soil video, but I was not expecting the next leaf to be an upsize because it had lost so much of its root system and a lot of its stem as well. I usually tell people to not expect an upsize unless you retain a lot of the root system on an anthurium after a chop. Usually the next leaf is like around the same size as the previous leaf, but I was not expecting this one to get like so much bigger. I mean, it's not so much bigger, but it is definitely bigger and like it's so round and I just love the Minahasa so much. It's such a satisfying, super symmetrical leaf. I think that's why it's so attractive, is because how symmetrical it is all the time. And it always has a very, very highlighter pink margin. I don't know if it's showing up, but it definitely looks very pink in person. It's like a very pretty like bubblegum pink. I'm pretty sure this is like quite an easy one to get especially if you're importing from Indonesia. So I highly recommend it. It's such an easygoing one too. I don't think this would have any issues growing in ambient conditions. Like I chopped it, it didn't throw a fit. It actually has a bit of edema right now, I think because I let it get a bit too dry and then I watered it. I'm pretty sure I watered it yesterday, but there's a little bit of edema here. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit of a shorter one. Next week I should have a couple of new plants. We got an import from Indonesia. I just arrived to Jing yesterday. And I do want to chop some more anthuriums. My stock of propagations is dwindling. I do need to refill. As much as I'm enjoying having some more space, I do need to replenish my stock of props. Something like a new anthurium import / chopping anthuriums video should be next week. So I hope you're having a great weekend. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah.